My father stood up in the middle of Christmas dinner and raised his glass. Everyone stopped talking. 23 relatives sat around the long table in my aunt's house, plates half empty, wine glasses mid-air. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. Our daughter is a thief. Every head slowly turned toward me. My name is Clara Whitmore, and at that moment I was sitting quietly at the far end of the table holding a fork. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. My father pulled a white envelope from his jacket and slapped it down on the table. "We have proof," he said. My mother nodded beside him, looking deeply disappointed. "As a family," my dad continued, "we deserve to know why Clara stole money from her grandmother before she passed." A few people gasped. My cousin muttered, "Wait, what?" I looked around the room. Confusion, shock, judgment. My aunt slowly pushed her chair back. "Gerald," she said carefully, "what are you talking about?" Dad pointed straight at me. "Clara emptied part of Mom's savings account 2 months before she passed." My chest tightened. I hadn't touched a single dollar. Then he slid the envelope toward me. "A court summons," he said coldly. "You'll explain it to a judge." I stared at the paper for a long moment. Then I smiled, because the phone in my purse contained something my parents never expected. I pulled it out, placed it on the table, and said calmly, "Go ahead, play the recording." 3 months earlier, none of this had started with my grandmother. It started with money, specifically my parents' debt. My father called me one evening, sounding unusually friendly. "Clara," he said, "we need a small favor." Small favors from my father were never small. They had taken loans before, refinanced the house twice, and somehow there was always another emergency. "How much?" I asked. He hesitated. "About 80,000. I almost laughed. "That's not a favor," I said. "That's a bailout." My mom jumped on the call. "Sweetheart, it's temporary. We just need help paying off the credit cards." I shook my head, even though they couldn't see it. "I can't do that." Silence. Then the tone changed instantly. My father's voice hardened. "After everything we've done for you? I didn't create your debt." That conversation ended with a slammed phone. For the next 2 weeks, neither of them spoke to me, which honestly wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the rumor that started spreading soon after. Apparently, according to my parents, I had stolen money from my grandmother. The first call came from my cousin Emma. "Clara, I didn't want to believe it," she said carefully. "Believe what?" "That you took money from Grandma before she died." My stomach dropped. "What?" Emma hesitated. "Your parents told everyone that Grandma noticed money missing before she passed. That was impossible. I had been helping my grandmother with her medical appointments during those months. I was the one driving her to the bank, helping organize her paperwork. She trusted me more than anyone, which meant one thing. If money really had disappeared, I was the easiest person to blame." Within a week, 3 different relatives asked me about it. Each conversation ended the same way. "Your dad seemed very sure." That's when something in my mind clicked. My parents weren't just angry about the debt. They were building a story, and if they kept repeating it long enough, people might actually believe it. So instead of arguing with anyone, I started gathering information. Because if my name was going to be dragged through the mud, I was going to find out exactly where that money went. 2 days later, I visited the same bank my grandmother used. The manager recognized me immediately. "You used to bring Mrs. Whitmore here," he said kindly. I did. I explained the situation carefully. Missing money, family accusations. The manager frowned. "Let me check something." 10 minutes later, he returned with a printed transaction report, and what I saw shocked me. Money had indeed been withdrawn from my grandmother's account, large amounts. But the withdrawals didn't happen when I was with her. They happened on days when I wasn't even in town. My eyes moved to the signature lines. Each withdrawal required identification. The manager tapped the paper. These were authorized in person. "Do you have security footage?" He nodded slowly. "Actually, we keep it for 6 months." My heart started beating faster, because if someone else withdrew that money, the cameras would show exactly who it was. The bank allowed me to view the footage in a small office. The screen flickered as the manager pulled up the date of the first withdrawal. The video showed my grandmother walking into the bank slowly with a cane, but she wasn't alone. Someone was beside her, holding her arm, guiding her to the counter. I leaned closer to the screen because I recognized that person immediately. My mother. The footage showed her speaking with the teller while my grandmother stood quietly beside her. Then another video played. A week later, another withdrawal. This time, my father was there, signing documents, talking confidently with the bank employee. My stomach twisted. By the time the footage ended, the pattern was obvious. Nearly $120,000 had been withdrawn, and every time, my parents were the ones present. I thanked the manager, asked for copies of the records, and walked out of the bank. But I still didn't confront them. Not yet. Because I wanted one more piece of evidence, something that would make their lies impossible to deny. 2 weeks before Christmas, my parents invited me to dinner, which was unusual. They had barely spoken to me since the debt argument. I almost declined, but something told me to go. Before leaving my apartment, I opened the voice recorder on my phone and slipped it into my purse, just in case. Dinner started normally. Small talk, complaints about rising prices. Then my father leaned forward. "Have you reconsidered helping us with the debt?" "No." My mother sighed dramatically. "You're being selfish." I stayed quiet. Then my father said something that changed everything. "If she won't help, we'll make her." I felt my fingers tighten around my glass. What does that mean? My parents exchanged a look. Then my father shrugged. "Let's just say the family will hear an interesting story soon." That's when I knew. They were planning to accuse me. So I kept talking, asked questions, let them complain, and the entire conversation was recorded. Which brings us back to Christmas. The long table, the shocked faces, my father proudly calling me a thief, and the envelope with the court summons. The moment he finished speaking, I placed my phone on the table. "Play the recording," I said. My cousin picked it up and tapped the screen. The room filled with my father's voice. "If she won't help, we'll make her." Then my mother. "The family will believe us before they believe her." The room went silent. No one moved. My aunt slowly turned toward my parents. "Gerald, what is this?" My father's face had gone pale. "It's edited," he said quickly. But the recording continued. My mother's voice again. "She's the only one Grandma trusted. It's the perfect story." The silence became heavy. Then someone whispered, "Oh my God." When the recording ended, I opened my purse again and pulled out another envelope. "Since we're sharing evidence," I said calmly, I slid the bank statements across the table. Withdrawal records, security images, Dates, times. My aunt picked up the papers. Her eyes widened. These signatures. Gerald, this is you. My father stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. But my cousin pointed to the printed security photo. That's literally you at the bank. My mother's chair scraped against the floor. The room erupted into whispers. Suddenly, the story everyone believed was collapsing. Within minutes, the room divided. Some relatives angry, some shocked. My father kept insisting the documents were fake, but the evidence was overwhelming. The bank records, the footage, the recording. Finally, my grandmother's sister spoke. "I trusted you," she said quietly to my father. No one defended him. No one defended my mother either. For the first time in my life, their authority inside the family disappeared completely, and they knew it. My father grabbed his coat and stormed out. My mother followed without saying a word. The front door slammed behind them, leaving 20 relatives staring at the evidence spread across the table. 3 weeks later, the truth was undeniable. The bank confirmed the withdrawals. My parents quietly repaid most of the money before the situation reached court. The lawsuit they filed against me was dropped immediately. And the story they created about me? No one believed it anymore. I wish I could say the ending felt satisfying, but mostly it felt peaceful, because after years of manipulation, guilt, and financial pressure, the truth finally existed where everyone could see it. And sometimes that's the only victory you need. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more stories.